All right, y'all can see my screen?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yep.
I didn't ask what you're seeing, but you should be seeing the Kairos 82823. All right.
Yeah.
And the 313, the 248, the 616, and whatever zip code that Hannah said. And of course, Fort Lauderdale. You guys are all seeing that. I love it. It's amazing. It's good stuff. All right. So I'm kind of moving forward here, guys. Just like I was mentioning, a new call cadence. Hopefully, you guys, it made sense to you what I presented on last week. I just sent that over in WhatsApp chat. Just trying to move our call cadence to still really house all the calls that are necessary without adding additional ones, and to kind of keep things front and center in terms of the tribe call, the leadership equip call. And so they have a shared time. So the once a month leadership equip call will be at this time when we have that. So we have one coming up on September 18th. We won't necessarily have this call. But the other weeks we will actually have this call, right? The other Mondays, the first Monday call will be always more of a bench reporting, speaking about the results from the month prior, talking about sales and labor and just overall guest experience, learning from each other, growing from each other. Mostly a download, but like I said, we will have some of those key learnings, whereas the other calls will be true to form, that talk shop, pro tip sharing, getting better together, that mentality. And so that will always be on Mondays, with the exception, of course, of next week. We have Labor Day. That's on a Monday. Or any other times in a Monday where we have additional foot traffic in our parks. We're busier than we might anticipate ahead of time. We'll move it to our old Thursday timeframe. So next week, we'll have that on Thursday, the tribe call, first of the month call, essentially. And then we'll look to come back to this time frame each Monday. So continue to try to remind each of you of that new cadence. So any questions?
Is that going to be like sent in our email as like RSVPs for reminders?
Yeah, yes. You should have received actually those calls already scheduled out. If you didn't, let me know. But everybody should have gotten a multitude of call requests that came through.
Most likely did. This one didn't show up on my email calendar. That's why I asked about it earlier. Because it didn't show up, and then fortunately Cody said something about it.
Did this show up for everybody else? Because like you said, Cody got it. Anybody else?
Yeah, it showed up. And I just knew from like past that I was excited that we were going to have it on Monday. So I usually have them on Thursday. So I just knew it was on Monday. I was excited.
Okay. Helpful. All right. Well, I'll double check just to be sure. I was canceling calls. I was adding new calls and just trying to kind of get situated for, yes, we're still in that third quarter, but things, as you all know, kind of shift from those summer hours to those fall hours, and sort of the way our weeks are laid out, and just the traffic flow changes up quite a bit too. So yeah, I'll send those reminders out as well. And of course, never want the calls to be in any case a hinder. I want them to be a help. And so that's the goal here. All right. So for this call today, we're largely going to focus on sort of these three things. And of course, the initial conversation piece I threw out there for this call was more like outbound sales initiatives. And so that will take up the majority of our time, which is why it's slated towards the back end of our conversation, because I want to get plenty of time and space. But based on the timing of things, late August, almost September here, I do want to just make mention of labor spend and just being mindful of that, and how we can sort of coordinate our efforts from within, utilize our labor dollars to our fullest potential. For anyone who's been around Sky Zone for more than a year, or even a year's sake, I'm sure you've seen it already. There is this dip that occurs. We didn't really see this dip as exaggerated as it has been historically in the past at times. But just the same in Michigan, we had a number of things going on around this time last year. If you were in Shelby Township, for instance, we had invasions going on. And so things have been a little wonky, especially coming out of 2020, with parks being closed and then reopening back up. And so it's been not business as usual per se, but typically September and October are going to be slower. We'll start to kind of pick back up in that November, December timeframe to kind of build up for the winter ahead. So we want to talk a little bit about labor. Staffing is always going to be front and center, as it should be. And then, like I said, outbound sales. So just a quick word on labor spends. Everyone's been doing really a good job on that. I just want to kind of keep that front and center. Obviously, we can always learn how to spend better within the parks, but one of the crux of the conversation today is if we're going to talk outbound initiatives, that's going to have a labor spend tied to it while still needing to facilitate labor spends within the park to run a park that's safe, clean, and fun. And so that can be really challenging to say, well, I'm going to send people out. We're going to pay for them to go out to a tabling event or whatever, right? Whatever fall event that you want to plan for and send people out to, you're going to be paying for somebody to go out to, right? While still having to manage the park, possibly having 2 court monitors on a Monday, whatever that might look like for you, and still trying to drive that labor percent. Obviously, the best way to alleviate any kind of labor woes is to make money, to drive additional guests through our doors. And part of that outbound initiative is sort of that front and center, front loaded is that labor spend with the hope of getting a good ROI, right? The return on the investment. So when we think of labor spends, just know there's that tension of safe, clean, and fun during our slower times. Think strategically, stagger out your staffing while still getting your pre and post shift huddles done, which I know can be challenging, and truly look to ways you can manage the guest experience expectations. So for instance, maybe you have to kind of kick back your spend on courts without forsaking safety. And that might look like, right, tour guiding our guests, as many of you have done through the week during the summer, during slower portions of time. But don't forget to do things like managing expectations at the front counter. And that may look and sound like, just so you know, you're going to be here for 2 hours. You're going to get to do everything in our park. However, everything's open at the same time. So managing that expectation front and center will help sort of overpromise and underdeliver, or rather underpromise and overdeliver, right? You're managing that expectation, which we want to do the latter of telling them, hey, this is what we're doing. And if you can deliver above and beyond that, awesome. That's what we want to go for. So when you think of labor spends, it really comes down to communication within the park, where we have people situated. And it also looks like assistant managers who maybe are part of that 2 or 3 hour changeover. That doesn't necessarily look like office work. That may look like them being an additional hand or body out there on the attractions, on the courts, to ensure that we're still running safe, clean, and fun. But it can get challenging. It can be challenging at times. And I know even with our leads, they don't always want to lock in, but we need to think through that critically, especially in these slower times that are going to be coming up here in September, October. That when they do, those leads know that they're not a traditional lead. They're going to step into that role of, say, being the best sales associate we have for a shift, or the best court monitor that we have for a shift, right? So looking to how we can arrange our team and operate as cost effectively as possible. So that's the labor spend component. I know many of you are already on top of this. We just don't want to move into these fall hours. Things kind of slow down and we're caught somewhat flat-footed, or we're waiting for that bus to show up or those Groupon dollars to come in, which they, yes, but we want that to be more like icing on the cake versus something we really need to have happen so that we can meet our labor goals. So that's what I have for you guys in labor spends. Also think about your training hours and all that, because that's all kind of baked into that labor spend. Be smart about your spends there. I always like to kind of put that where I can on a busier day, which seems counterintuitive because you're busier and you need the body count to get things done. But I think you could sort of put that labor spend for that training, and you can kind of tie it into your overall revenue on the day and get some alleviation across your week. But that's what I have for you guys for labor spend. Any questions or concerns? Again, I'm not speaking into slower times, but I also don't want to be reactive to potentially slower times either.
Yeah. You just reminded me when you said Groupon, and this could be for everybody. I just know that it's saying for who do we talk to if our Groupon is saying on the Groupon site that it's sold out? Because I still want to get those Groupon jumpers in here, because it's all saying sold out on ours, not the parties, but the open jump.
Yeah. Not knowing that, I'm the guy that you'd want to speak to, and then I would bubble that up to like Bree and Wade. I know we made some adjustments on Groupon, as many of you are aware, over the last month to 2 months. But yeah, just let me know, and I can bubble that up for sure.
Okay, I'll send you a separate text or email about it.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey Steph, I was on the walkie. What was your question? Because I might have the same question.
Our group on our parties are still valid on there, but it's saying everything else is sold out if you want to purchase something. So we haven't been getting really any in except for the parties
Oh, yeah, no, I
least-
don't have that.
or two, and I want those.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't have that problem. I have a problem with too many people having Groupon.
When did it say that it was sold out, by the way, Stephanie? When did you notice that?
I just noticed it a couple days ago. I want to do this one really quick. But I know
yes, Lance. Florida is sold out too.
Thank you.
Like that for
Thank
a
you.
week.
That's helpful. Okay. That's good to know. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, guys. And of course, on our one-on-ones through the week, just for the record, when I'm in your park, we're not necessarily having a one-on-one. Case in point, today, I would have had slated at 9 a.m. with Devin, but I'm going to be in this park throughout all day tomorrow, so don't necessarily need to have that one-on-one. I'm going to be in the Michigan market here this week, of course. Shelby on Wednesday. I'm going to be in Canton on Friday, and so I don't necessarily have one-on-ones with you guys slated in the form of a call, but we'll be on site, so we'll talk more then. But for anybody, if you want to talk at any point about labor spends and just kind of think through that more strategically, by all means, let's connect and let's be aggressive and ahead of this versus active to it. All right, next up, just a quick blurb on this because it's such a huge piece. We're always hiring, right? We're always hiring. And so as we talk to staffing, it's smart hires, many of which we talked about, different ways of doing this, whether hungry, humble, and smart, or ABCs, attitude, and behavior, and of course character, that being the ABCs, or the 4 C's as I often go off of. But doing the smart hiring, doing full training, as well as continuous development, how we can continually develop, such as the case I'm doing training tomorrow in Grand Rapids. I'm going to open up another one for Southeast Michigan here in the near future, so that would be for, of course, Shelby and Canton. This time we'll probably do it in the Shelby Park, as well as looking to do something in Florida, as well as Murfreesboro, whether on site or over like a Zoom environment, but preferably on site. So offline, David and Hannah, we can talk more about that because I will be, as you know, David, in your park here in just a couple weeks. So if we can make that work, that would be incredible to do some sort of lead training and then going broke on talent. And by that, just always adding to our team and always developing to that +1 mentality, having +1 of each role in our business, especially those key roles in our business, which I don't know about you, but I think every role is key. There's no throwaway positions, as you've heard me say many times over. You're not going to just throw somebody into, say, the greeter position and say that's a throwaway position. Far from it. And so always going to the additional +1 in a world with business where everyone's trying to watch their spends. It's the one area I think we can be that much more aggressive in, and to some degree go broke on talent. And follow my air quotes, I'm not saying necessarily overspend, but let's continue to spend in our training, in our development, and really growing up our people. As the expression goes, what if we train them and they leave? Well, what if we don't train them and they stay, right? That's sort of that mentality. We need to continually train them up. And if we get to a point where we just don't have room for all these potential leaders in the making, it's a wonderful problem to have. They may just move on. Yes, that may come to be, but we also don't want to be on the other end of that, which is like, I don't have any leads, or the ones I have are not of good quality, and just sort of be having that that starvation going on within the team dynamic of not having the proper leaders that we need. So we want to continually train and develop and staff accordingly. And so just keep that front and center, especially as we go through this leaner time. A lot of our more tenured leaders, as well as staff just in general, have moved on to college. So there's sort of this new class of individuals we're bringing in, team members, so on and so forth. Let's continue to do that. Let's hire smart and give them that full onboarding and training and continuous development, which I'm known for here in the region. So any questions on staffing or any thoughts around that? You guys do an excellent job. It's just a keen reminder that we need to stay on top of it. We definitely don't want to get reactive whatsoever. All right, now for the bread and butter of the conversation, outbound initiatives. And I've had quite a bit of experience of this with this in years past. I think we've gotten a little quiet on our end. A lot of that is based on a lot of businesses because of 2020 and there on after, just sort of forgetting that you can go outbound. There is a tension there with going outbound because there is a spend usually associated with it, whether to spend money for a tabling event or to spend money to join Chamber of Commerce, or just to spend money on putting team members out there at a fun run who are giving away water bottles and, you know, buy one, get ones, or whatever that might look like, right? And so we need to be smart with that and look to the ROI and really have a keen awareness around it. But just the same, there's a lot of ways we can go about outbound, and I kind of have it sectioned off like this. Community initiatives, that's those partnering events with, well, the second point is actual partnerships. It's not so much partnering events as much as it is becoming more immersed in your community in the way of Chamber of Commerce, right? Going to brunch get-togethers and just sort of getting to know people within the community so that they know that you exist. Don't be surprised to realize that you may have been in a place like Canton, for instance, has been a part of that community since 2012, and yet there are within the area that you might be surprised to find out they don't even know Sky Zone exists, right? There are some out there that don't even know what a trampoline park is. And that's crazy to think about in 2023, but it's every bit true. So it's those community initiatives. Then there's the partnership component, which there's a lot of different avenues you can go with that. There's fairs, there's festivals, college connections that can be made, tabling events. We're probably a little bit behind that just because a lot of the community colleges and local colleges have already done a lot of their first week, second week kind of deals with their colleges, their community colleges especially. They're already kind of back at it from what I gather. But there's still stuff that we can do within the area of colleges. And so we've done tabling events, both to hire, yes, new talent, but also to let people know that we're in the area. I've seen fun runs work really well. Here in Michigan, we have a lot of like different events around cider mills and sort of the opening up of sort of the fall season here in the North region, or not the North region, but the northern parks here in Michigan. And then, of course, I'm sure there are things going on in the world of Florida that we need to kind of keep a keen eye on, as well as in the Tennessee market. And then there's street teams, which I love. You have to have the right people to do it. But those outbound initiatives in the way of a street team can be a lot of fun. And that kind of ties back to that third bullet point of fairs and festivals, parades, so on and so forth. So I'm going to kind of turn the call over to you guys. I've said a lot in the first 25 minutes of our time together, and we still got the better half of the call left to go. Let's talk through what's working. What are some things you guys are thinking through? And yeah, let's brainstorm and let's take a level of aggression around getting out to our guests upon potentially these slower times that are going to be coming up. So anybody who wants to add, now is the time. Let's talk shop.
Really, and I know that the call center is already doing calls to schools, but they're actually going to past schools and such. But I like, one of my goals this fall is to get, like, within the next 120 days is to somehow get secured 2 field trips and 1 fundraiser per month. And that's going to take a lot more than I think just these calls that are being made. I actually just really want to just start either calling or going to the schools myself and just offering them, showing them what we have. And I know sometimes getting into the schools is a little bit more difficult, but at the same time, we offer things such as the physics one as a field trip, as well as the marketing field trip, which I think is just phenomenal. All these different kinds of field trips and such that other people don't have.
Yes. So
I just want to get
sorry,
in.
go ahead.
Oh, nothing. Go ahead.
Nope, I didn't mean to cut you off. My apologies there. I didn't have my screen up at the time. Also, my apologies. I was writing that down because I think that's extremely, it's really important that we do have sort of a face and a name to tie back to, not to make light of for even a moment, the comm center involvement in that. That's an incredible part of this, but I don't think it's all of it, right? And so there is a measure in which they are doing that. However, there is making that connection. I even think to the degree in which you just hired, Stephanie, an assistant manager in your park, right? That had some level of involvement in the park before she ever stepped foot in as a manager, and that is in that she was a member. And is it her son or her daughter? Her kid, right?
Her daughter, yeah. And she has all these connections with, like, she has all the mommy groups. Like she's already advertising for us, which I think that is absolutely huge. It was something that has been said on multiple occasions but I personally hadn't dove into that. And when she said it, I was just like, you're already involved in all this. You can advertise. If it's already on our website and it's something that we're already doing, go right ahead. As long as it's good and it's correct.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll take stock of the fact that for some reason we all believe that there's not dad groups that care about these, take your kids out to a fun place, but that's okay. I'm not at all hurt. Neither is any one of the guys on this call. Maybe, I don't know, but you may have just given more fuel to Devin's fire. But
do you have a dad
group
off the top of your mind or off the top of your head?
I might be in a dozen of them. You don't know. You just won't.
I guess this will be a question that I'll ask you later. You're right. I didn't think of that. Sorry to add more fuel, fella.
It seems like there's some assumptions being made. No,
you're not wrong.
Yeah. No, I'm kidding with you. But no, you make an excellent point. The mom groups, yes, to some degree, I would think the dad groups. There's some planners out there in the world of dad, sure. But no, I think anytime we can make the connection, kind of going back to the initial sort of look over of how can you make those connections and actually have an intentionally a 1 to 2 or 3 connections you want to make, like you said, it's sort of falls within that 120-day goal. And that can be a 2-week chunk, right? I think that 2-week segment could be all devoted to, I'm going to get out and make this connection with 2 schools in the area and get 2 marketing field trips or whatever, landed park. I think if we all took that mentality, which is kind of at the heart of the outbound initiatives of what can we add to on top of organic or being brought about based on boosts on social media and some of the other ways in which we drive traffic through our doors, what are some ways in which I can be a part of that solution to kind of move the needle in sales? And so I think that that's a great thing to do. And I don't think we can do too much of that, to be quite honest. So that's excellent. And that's a great goal to set for yourself, sort of as a mini goal within the larger goal setting that you're doing. Awesome. Excellent. I meant to ask, is everyone part of their Chamber of Commerce now?
I'm going to an event in October or September, one of the 2 months, and it was free, so you didn't have to sign up for it or pay to be a part of it. It's more of like an introduction to the chambers. So I'm going to those. I think it's October now. It's coming up though.
Love it. Yeah. And you had a tabling event that was like $75 coming up too. I saw that in email. Some $75 tabling.
Yeah, that's something Hannah has been targeting all of and that's our Grand Rapids Hannah. She's been targeting kind of areas 35 minutes out from Grand Rapids. And then Dee is kind of targeting inside the Grand Rapids area. So I know Hannah's been really active. Dee sent out a letter to all the different schools in the area, and it was actually, I showed it to Lance and Wade at the retreat because it was really well done, and it wasn't something I asked her to do. It was something she just kind of came up with, and she kind of gave people different options of things they could do. Which there were 3 or 4 of them that she used that I thought was really clever. So she sent those out. The couple things though that I've told our team about this. Before they ever do anything, and so that they're not, but it's just something to keep their agenda full. So I told our team to be sure that you're very clear about what you want from them and what you can offer them, and not just go to a bunch of meetings just to say you went to a meeting. That's something that I know I had to have that conversation with Hannah, because she's like, yeah, the PTA invited me back for it, and I'm like, well, tell them you can't go because they're trying to fill an agenda. So I was like, tell them what we want, tell them what we can offer, and if they still want to talk, then we will. But yeah, that was something I know just because I worked in nonprofits, so I know how a lot of those meetings go. Is,
Yep.
hey, let's sit down to talk about when we're going to talk. I don't have time for that.
Yeah, and we for sure don't have the ability to spend money on that, both in
Right.
personnel and someone as talented as Hannah going in there wasting her time. So, no, that's a great catch. It's really
Yeah.
setting the agenda from the get-go. It's actually having a very objective, having like the objective in mind right off the get-go. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. This is the goal as to why we're doing this. For sure. Because
Right.
it is selling. Even that outbound initiative to create outbound initiatives is a form of selling. That's what we're doing.
Yep.
So I have a question because I'm just pretty like ignorant towards this. What do you do? Like from start to finish? You know what I mean? Devin, Stephanie, I think Lance is frozen, but like, do you call? Do you just show up? Do you book something? Do you email somebody? Like, I don't know what I'm doing to do these outbound like initiatives for like specifically the Chamber of Commerce.
You're going to have your Chamber of Commerce contact, and they should send you a list, or actually just get a meeting with them so you can really get to know them. And then they're going to give you list upon list upon list upon just events coming up. And they'll also help hook you up with different, not just events, but outbound marketing, different, I have one lady who wants to do like fundraising in the park and such, but you got to find out who your Chamber of Commerce contact is, whether it's for the city or whether it's for the county, depending on who you're with.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
are you in your
Okay.
Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah, I know I am because I get emails like all the time, but I'll just have to look through stuff to find the contact or whatever, but I've just never known like what's step one, you know. But I guess that
Yeah,
I guess. And
it's getting that person. Was it Shauna? Do you think that it seems like it would have been Shauna or Letha who would have signed that up for you guys?
potentially Bree too, because
Oh,
she
yeah, Bree.
opened my part. I'll ask Bree.
Forgot about
I'll
that.
just start there and ask Bree. Okay, thank you, love.
Yeah.
I think
Anything
Lance is frozen again.
you can join.
Yeah. And all you do, Hannah, is you just,
Can you do a
yeah,
this too?
please, bro, just let's talk about opportunities where we could benefit each other.
Okay. I guess I'm just overthinking it.
Yeah, I would imagine Bree has that contact. The moment you get a hold of that person, they're gonna probably want to sit down and have a meeting with you.
So you
Sounds
just
horrible.
go-
I do
you
not
just
want to do that.
go-
Sorry, what, Cody?
I said, I'm glad I'm not the only one that is just like completely ignorant to this. So you just go to
Yeah.
the Chamber of Commerce and then they kind of just like contact you, or I'm sorry.
Cody, are you signed
So-
up for it? I don't think you are. Okay, I
I'll
don't
be
think.
honest, like this whole like outbound thing, like when I knew we were gonna have this about this call, I was like, man, I'm gonna have my mic muted the whole time because I have zero idea. I'm not even set
Well,
up for
that's
Chamber of Commerce.
that's why I told Lance I wanted to have this call because I feel like it's one place I really like lack in. And I'm very socially awkward. So I do not want to I'm sending other people to do this. I'm not doing it.
You didn't seem very socially awkward when we were at the retreat.
Oh no,
The whole
I'm very
purpose of-
shy. I'm very shy. I'm just
So
comfortable with you guys.
The whole purpose of a Chamber of Commerce is they're there to, first of all, they're member based too. So they want members because that helps pay their bills. And then they can go out and help promote your event. In some cases, they'll like lobby for businesses. If there's like a specific issue that they're having with cities and stuff, they'll go in and kind of be your voice within the government and stuff. So they're membership based, so they want to have as many members as possible, just like we do, so that they can go out and they have a lot of benefits too. Like in some cases, they'll have like you can get discounts on certain places in town, or like I know when I worked in nonprofits, we were a member of the chamber because it got us like a 20% discount on healthcare and insurance. So we joined it just for that reason. And yeah, with the biggest thing is I think you just think about your business, who comes into your doors. It's mostly kids. So where are the places that kids are going to be, parents are going to be, and then you try to strike up a relationship with them so that they'll help promote your business for you. So for instance, we went to a bunch of restaurants around us because that's where kids are going to go with their parents for dinner and stuff. So we said, hey, can we do, would it be okay if we threw up flyers in here every, couple weeks? They're like, yeah, that's fine. Or grocery stores, they might have a bulletin board that you can put that kind of stuff up on. And those are the kind of places you're going to see parents. So it's who are the guests that we have coming in every day? Where do they go? And then we try to meet them at those spots. So if it's a school event, that's a perfect example. You're going to have tons of people that will potentially could come through your doors, but like Lance said, how many people actually know that Sky Zone's a thing? So we went to Wayland, which is about 25 minutes from Grand Rapids, and we're at a parade and nobody knew about us. And we've seen a few people come in, and this was one of the other big things that we tried to do is we wanted to be able to show what the return is. So if I send somebody out and they give out 100 passes or 100 buy one get ones or 100 wristbands, and one of those people actually comes back and spends money at Sky Zone, was it worth it? So we started tracking our we put like little codes on the back of all of our passes and stuff so that when we get those back, we can look at it and say, okay, this was given out at this event. We know how many of those we've gotten back now. So that gives us a way to measure so that we can go back to Lance and say, hey, Lance, yeah, our labor rate was a little higher on Saturday because we were at this event, but that event generated 15 jumpers and that generated this amount of money and that person bought, 3 of those people bought memberships. So we're able to then show what the benefit was to the business.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also when I worked at the massage place before this, there was small groups. Like we would go every single Thursday or every other Thursday and go to the small groups, and you just promote your business within these small groups and you talk about them, and it was free. I mean, there's the membership as Devin talked about, but it was free technically. You'd go in and then you just bring your business through there. And one of the things we also did was we did a thing called Troy Days, which we went there and we had a wheel, and all of us have a wheel, and we had kids, like the only way to spin the wheel, we'd have them sign up. And we got like thousands of people, thousands of numbers and emails and all that. And that way we just reached out to every single one of them, which was quite amazing, just to get a return on the investment that we had. And then they had our product in their hand, which was pretty nice because they would look at it.
So when you guys show up to these like Chamber of Commerce events, going back to that, besides becoming a member and being a member with them, is what, like, as Lance was kind of saying, what are we selling? Like, how do you do that when you go to these things? Do you set up a booth? Like, I literally have no idea what this means.
Yeah, so not just Chamber, but any place that you go, you set up a booth, you set up with flyers, you set up with your different, usually, it's our birthday party trinket and such for our packages. We'd have the water bottles, we'd have the wristbands, all of that, but you'd really make a display that people want to stop and ask you questions.
Okay.
And you can go to anything. We also, prior to me leaving, we went to something like, or we would go to health events, and these things, people would have to stop at every single table, and you'd get to talk through all that, talk through everything that you had to them.
Okay.
It's just a matter of getting into these events now.
Yeah. We brought the birthday wheel to one of our events. We didn't have any birthday parties that day, so we brought that, and kids, you can hear it, you can see it, so it's visual, and you can the auditory aspect to it. So we had a line at our booth. And one of the things I learned from nonprofits is a lot of times at these events, people go because they're like, oh, what can I get for free? So you have to have something to kind of give them. So we brought wristbands because they're cheap and they're not, we have a lot of them. So we brought wristbands. We let them spin the wheel. We put like sunglasses, things like that on the wheel that day so they could win those. And it was very popular. But it was all about just at least then people make the connection to Sky Zone. And then if that one day where they're like, hey, what should we go do today? Oh, remember we were at that event the other day and they had talked about Sky Zone? Let's go to Sky Zone. Let's try that out. And then it becomes, that's the whole point of it, is you're networking to create those relationships where when somebody thinks about who should we go to, they come to us and not somebody else.
Totally. BOGO cards work really nice. Even 30-minute passes, most people are going to buy more.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you guys so much.
That's excellent.
We've been doing
And
the
sorry,
buy one,
guys.
get one.
What's that?
It's okay. We managed
Yeah.
without you.
No, it's just
We've
I'm
been-
about to say some things, and I might repeat you guys, and I hopefully I don't. But I'm going to say some things here in a minute. But plug your ears.
We've
if
been
you
using the buy one, get one instead of passes. We've been saying, hey, here's a buy one, get one. You can come for free. Bring your friend with you. And that's worked well for us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when possible, the buy one, get one is probably the preferred route, although 30 minutes to what Stephanie said, it would have been one thing 10 years ago when we only had 4 things to do, but now that we have 13, 15 different things to do, you just can't get enough. You can't get everything you need in that 30 minutes. And so that's why we've moved to that 90 minutes to 120 being a lot more common than it used to be. 60 minutes used to be the most common. And so as you have more to do, you have more reasons to stay and play and eat and obviously just hang out with us for a longer period of time. One thing that wasn't mentioned, unless it was, and I missed it, did anybody mention hotels?
No, not that I heard.
Yeah, so hotels is a really good one because a lot of times they want and they're totally like open to you having flyers and things like that. Again, when you think of, especially if you're by an airport and even if you're not, just hotels in the area where they have a little lobby area, they typically have some sort of reading materials and things that you can do in the area. That's a perfect place to kind of set your buy one, get ones, that sort of thing, right? To just kind of take note of when people are staying in the area, they may want to find something to do. And a hotel is a great place to do that. So area hotels, motels, that sort of thing. I would also then look to, sports schedules in the area. So a lot of times there's different sports tournaments that occur. Now, to some degree, the tension there is that a lot of coaches might not want their athletes, whatever, playing at a Sky Zone for the fear of them, straining or getting hurt or something to that degree. But I have seen in the past during, baseball tournaments, things like that, soccer, that we've been able to partner up in a sense by kind of tagging up with the hotel that's going to be housing them and say, hey, we're going to give away so many passes, again, to drive that traffic through so they have something to do that's active, that's fun, that's outside the scope of the tournament that they're at. So that's something to think about. Gymnastic studios, things like that.
You just reminded me something to kind of get on the books now to reach out to people about are holiday parties.
Yeah. Yes.
Like September, like call as many people as you can, or even go to the places, let them know we exist, let them know it's a great place for a holiday party. That might be something, Lance, and I don't want to reinvent the wheel at all, but I was thinking like just holiday parties or like big parties like that or company parties. That might be something that would be worth like re-looking at our packages for. Not just a simple group event, like that would include the socks, that would include just different aspects of things that wasn't just like a basic elite plus birthday party or ultimate birthday party. Like just something that is just a little bit extra to really drive those people into our businesses.
Absolutely. I look back to years ago, Canton had a reoccurring Quicken Loans is a big company out in the Michigan market here, and Quicken Loans would reoccurringly have, I think, twice a year an outing at the park. Come out, play dodgeball, because wait, what's better than going to throw a dodgeball at your boss's face and it being entirely okay, right? Not that you should be aiming for the head, but anyway, it does happen, right? So we would have those kind of outings. Those would do really well. But yeah, even partnering up, that's a little bit trickier at times to kind of partner up with businesses in the area. However, that's why the chamber is so helpful. Another thing I was reminded of with the chamber, and I don't want to forget to mention this, that a lot of times we go through a lot of trade and bartering sites for things that we get, whether that's floors or bathroom issues we're having. We go through different trade and bartering type sites. I know we don't necessarily do that in, say, Murfreesboro, but that's one thing you can look at too from a community outreach kind of mentality, is that when you become part of that chamber of commerce, that also allows you to have an opportunity to connect with those within the chamber about different services that they offer and do different trades. So that's another thing to look at as far as getting more of an inroads into other businesses in the area. And like Stephanie, you said, maybe hosting a holiday party. I mean, there's very, very few places that have the kind of space that we have in our lobbies, in our on our court area, or even just to do a brunch, like a breakfast kind of deal. When you become part of the Chamber of Commerce, sometimes they move it around to different companies. We're ideal for that because we have so much square foot of open space for them to meet. Even if they don't play in the park, they're going to meet there and make those connections happen. So that's another thing to look at.
It's America. What are you trying?
You just
What?
it's about
Sorry, having a computer issue. I didn't swear at all, in fact, if that's what you just asked. I'm just trying to get into like a Gmail that's not mine.
I think Lance froze again. But hey, Aaron.
Hi, Cody. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Hey, how's your knee, leg, ligaments doing?
It's it's still hurting pretty bad, but we're getting closer and closer to surgery. So
When is that?
October 18th.
Okay.
a tabling event. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we didn't hear you for like 5 minutes, so we started talking. So yeah, we hear you now.
Oh, technology is not doing me any favors here today.
Oh,
Hey.
Hannah, if you're still on the call, shout out to your team. 44 memberships on Saturday. Slay. Sorry, Devin, but slay.
And that's why, see, you guys are about to take this to a nuclear situation. I'm just saying.
You watch. You going after? She's going to go make a pizza. Disregard everything he
Hey.
just said. I swear, okay? Apparently, it's really
Hey,
sensitive
Cody.
in the other side of the state.
Yes, sir.
So speaking of outbound connections, so the new football coach at Canton High School, I went to school with him. Casey Best is his name. You should get a hold of him. He was a football coach in where I'm from, Battle Creek, and he did a program where they would like take some of his football players out to lunch or dinner at this restaurant. And it was like a place, it wasn't a super fancy restaurant, but they would make the kids wear like a tie and all that. He'd be a great guy to connect with for doing events and stuff. And he might want to do a fundraiser or something for the football team.
Okay, for sure. I will. Yeah, I got a couple of kids on the team, so I'll definitely reach out, or I'll have them see if they can give me his information, and then I'll talk to him for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
It's awesome.
I'll turn off video to try.
Making the connections happen. I love it. I love it.
I'm actually going to chime in for a second, Lance, too. And just in my previous experience, trunk or treats were huge for us during September, October, November. Just getting a car together, opening the hatch, and just, sky zoning it out, putting a bunch of foam in the back. And what Devin said, too, just like water bottles, sunglasses, wristbands, all like the stuff that's cost us nothing. And we would go to, like me and Kyle, or me, Kyle, Chase, whatever, we would go to 2 or 3 a day even sometimes, and they're super easy to get into. Most of the time you just message the person on Facebook or whatever church website they have, and those were huge for me back in the day.
Appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely. Try not to look to our competitors as I'm going to preface this again differently. There are going to be places where we're going out to which may feel like to some degree they're in competition with us, and maybe that is just so. But it's a measure of going out to where our guests are, to kind of go back to what Devin has said and what I have said previously as well. That's what this outbound initiative is about, is going out to where our guests are. And so to some degree, it can even look like maybe they're an indirect competitor, but they're kind of competing with us. That doesn't mean they won't want to partner with us in some degree, right? Or even going out to like a retail store, say when the holidays really kick in and they're looking for something to do to kind of break away from the million of hours of work, stocking shelves, they may want some passes being put on their break table just to come down to Sky Zone and have a good time with a little bit of time that they have, right? And so those little do good initiatives that have a really solid ROI to them, to be honest with you, those are ways in which you can get to know your neighbors better, but you can also kind of help them out and ultimately help us out because they come into our parks and they're going to spend something. They're going to spend something. Again, we're not going to give away the park per se, but there's a measure of opportunity there that when we go out there, we shake hands, we get to know them better, we give them some passes for their break room, for a holiday little makeshift party, whatever that might be, we can actually drum up some excitement about what we're doing. So that's another thing to think about as well. I'm the retail guy of 13 years. I'm telling you, every time that, some energy company came in there with Red Bull or Monster and 5 Hour Energy, whatever, we flocked to it, right? Because we needed that extra little bit of oomph, that little bit of something. And so they knew to market it. They would bring the Red Bull truck right up to the front door of Toys R Us because they knew the workers needed a little bit more. And so in some cases, maybe they need that little bit more they need is to get out to a Sky Zone park and enjoy 30 minutes on us. They will spend more and they'll have a good time and tell their friends. So that's another thing to look at. I can already see now the amount of people who are going to need 30-minute passes from me to be ordered. It's a wonderful problem to have, though. As long as we know what we're getting back for it.
A lot more buy one, get ones. The ones that I have all the old membership information on them.
Yeah.
I was just about to ask that, like, because I would like to do the buy one, get one, if anything. That way, at least they're spending.
Yep. That's preferred for sure. For sure. Cool. Yeah. And don't look past things like, I know we have a lot going on at the Comm Center and we keep schedules and we take stock of holidays going through the year. But when you think of like, Labor Day, Memorial Day, 4th of July, and we think of things like outbound initiatives around first responders, don't necessarily wait on others to do that for you. Make those connections happening. And whether it's a touch a truck event or something very similar to that, there are things we can do within the area based on what's going on in the community at the time that we can kind of partner up with. So again, community initiatives, maybe it's been a minute since you've had EMS over to your park and you want to walk them through, especially the newly renovated parks. Hey, I want to invite you out here to come out to the park, walk the park, kind of know the way of egress in case, God forbid, you got to come out here. You got to take somebody off a cord or off a slide or whatever. Again, hoping that doesn't happen, but making those connections happen will provide something of an avenue for potentially a future, get together, a party, whatever that might be. Again, that's not the goal behind why we're doing that, but that could become something that does happen to our advantage. Plus, it's something we should be doing anyway. We should be making those connections with our local EMS, police, fire department, all that, and making friends with them. And by doing that, we become further immersed in the community. And I can tell you, our competitors are probably not doing that. They're not doing that to that degree. I'll put you on the spot, Will. You were with Urban Air for a little while. Did you guys do that?
I'm sorry. What did we do? I apologize. I was talking to Cody for a second.
That's all right. Did you at Urban? Did you guys do like reach out where you brought fire department, EMS, police into the parks and kind of walked and talked the park and made connections with them? Was that something you guys did?
Urban Air was kind of different from like Innovative Heights with Sky Zone. We had like a full-time like commission salesperson in park that his job was to solely reach out and bring groups into the park, and then he got paid salary and then like a commission on the sales or whatever. So that was pretty different. So from a GM perspective of when I was doing it with you and me and our Pats group or at Grand Rapids, it was more set on the GM and like working with the team, whereas at Urban Air we just had a guy kind of do it ourselves. But we did have all kinds of like first responders, and we did like a nurse day. So like a lot of the nurses from the local hospitals, we did one of those. And it wasn't just nurses either. It was just medical staff in general. But
Sure.
yeah, all kinds of stuff like that. But I can't take credit for it because we just had a position for it.
Sure.
You did.
Absolutely.
You made me, or you remind me of just something that we can do in addition to all of that is car seat safety. We could bring them in for a little leapers time and like advertise it as that and get the fire department involved, and they can check everybody's car seat and make sure that it is properly put into their vehicle.
Yep. Because again, we have big parking lots in most cases. We have big lobbies in almost all cases, right? We have the room, and the idea is to get them to us because when they're in front of us, seeing is believing, they're going to buy into us. And so it's about how do we bring them in? And I think that's a wonderful opportunity. That's where people are at any given time. From what I gather, 100% rate of people who are going to have kids that go into car seats. So.
Not wrong.
Well, I guess if you don't do that, you're driving around illegally with your kid. But anyway, then we don't want them in the park because they're probably not going to fill out a waiver. So, all that being said, a lot of good thoughts, guys, here as we get to 2:00 Eastern Standard Time. What other thoughts? What other things? I'm sure we haven't mentioned everything, but there's been a lot here, which is good. Really good. Would you guys like this? I don't know if anyone's been taking some notes. I didn't actually assign anybody to take notes for this call. I've been writing some things down feverishly as I've been going. Anybody else been taking notes?
Just like minimally, like kind of what you had on your first slide, and then like different things like hotels. Yeah, that's it. There's really not much to it.
Yeah. And I've been on and off this call quite a bit just because my internet, it has been recording, I think, the whole time. So I can go back and try to listen to it when it becomes available. I think I took down a good amount of notes here. I will try to get this all kind of pieced together in noted form and sent back out to you guys. With that being said, would it be beneficial for us the next time we're together? That can't be next Thursday because we truly need a recap call from last month, this month, right? We need to have that for the 1st of September call that we had. But would it be helpful to have this call again in a couple weeks, or is this sufficient for the time being? Kind of wait and see. Let's get a month behind us here of outbound marketing. Ultimately, do you guys feel kind of ready to go with it?
I just need to get a plan in place. So I like what we have here, and I think putting it on, like resending out the video for anybody that wants to listen to it would be awesome. But that didn't answer your question.
No, I did, but there's only 2 of us on the call now. Everybody fell off. They had enough of it. They're like, I'm done. It's done at 2. I'm done. Done at 1 Central Time.
I'm here.
Oh, you're on here. All right, David. Good.
I'm just mopping, that's all. I'm listening.
No, that's fine. It just didn't pop up with you on here on my end. That's really weird. Well, nice to have you.
We missed you, David.
Yeah.
I miss you too.
Interesting. Okay. Good call. Good stuff. Yeah, it's interesting. There's so much we can do. There's a lot of ground that we have yet to take, and we have to do it with such a balanced approach because, as the expression goes, you can't boil the ocean, and to even make the attempt, you're going to spend far above what we should be spending, and it's going to hurt us on our labor. So, it's definitely something we got to think diligently through and try to figure out what items are going to be of, I guess, where we can get the greatest gains from. That's the goal. And hopefully we can continue to share amongst the group here what's working. And it may not necessarily work in Canton because it worked in Grand Rapids. However, that one thing that works in, say, Grand Rapids may just work in Fort Lauderdale. So that's why we want to have these conversations. It's worth having this down the road. We don't necessarily have to have it in a week to 2 weeks. Let's try to go out. I will actually make some additional notes here, send that out to you guys here in short order here, probably later today by the very latest. And then obviously once this video becomes available, I'll send this out to you guys as well for those that might want to listen back through it. But a lot of good shares. I think there's a lot of good stuff that we can take back to our parks and really become more targeted in.
Oh, you have to hit memberships. No, usually it would just.
All right. I'm losing y'all, and that's okay. I know David's still here. Hannah had to step up to go to register, and Stephanie and Aaron are trying to figure something out, and I muted her. So there you go.
Oh, no, we're golden. We're good.
Golden.
Hey, Lance, can I ask you a question? Unless Stephanie already asked you this question.
Say quiet.
If Stephanie already asked, then you don't get to ask the question. So
Okay.
you will find out.
Have heard from our friends that deal with air conditioning today?
I have not heard back from them yet. No. But again, again, this comes back to when you leave a room like a freezer, there's a high potential here that you're getting your just deserves. So when you leave a room like a freezer, and I tell you just so, it's a freezer in here, and you're overworking it, it's just so. I'm just going to leave it at that. When you leave a room like a freezer, and the staff's in jackets and sweatshirts in July.
Because it's hot outside and we want to in and enjoy the nice, cool, crisp air.
No, not when you can see your breath. No, that is not a good spend on anybody's front. So
or this building's 10 years old and we've been having issues, so maybe we need to get new air conditioning units.
I would be really mindful of the 10-year-old remark there, because you can ask any one of the people who are on this call or off this call right now. Kent is probably up on their roof right now tending to their 90-year-old building. So I would be very careful with your 10-year-old building quote, considering your building's the youngest of all the Innovative Height Park buildings. I'm almost positive.
I'm not saying anything, but yeah, exactly.
Burrow, like brand new.
Mine's 15 now, 14. Yeah, quite old.
Yeah.
We have like 2 HVACs that just are simply turned off. We have our bathroom that just has like 2